Hi guys, it's DK Daniels back for the 14th night. Um, the 14th night that we've been reading my book Chasing Christmas. Welcome back, everybody. It's nice to see you all. But anyway, as I've been saying, I'm DK Daniels. I am a YA LGBTQ fiction author, and for the past 14 days, we've been reading my book Chasing Christmas here, and we're closing in now on the finale. I think there's three chapters left, and the story is finished. It's been going really, really well, and I believe people have been enjoying it. If I have any readers who've continually come back time and time again. Hey guys, I know Terrence and Ethan have been here most nights, so it's nice to see you guys if you are here. Um, but yeah, anyway, we'll get into this now in a minute, but I'll also give you a bit of a recap and whatnot, and I'll also share a few other bits and bobs with you about my new upcoming short story and one or two other little things before we start while we're waiting for some people to filter in. But yeah, anyway, so we'll just make it, quick and speedy anyway in that regard. But I hope everybody has had a good day so far. Let me know how your day has been. It's My day has been quite productive. I've been able to do quite a bit of writing and quite a bit of admin work on the side, which usually when you do one or the other, it ends up eating into the time of the other. But there was a good balance today, so I'm kind of happy with that. But anyway, I'll get straight into a quick recap of what we were talking about yesterday. We read two chapters um, on Monday, and they were fairly, not upbeat chapters, but they were more on the thriller aspect, I guess you could say. But anyway, I'll recap what was yesterday. So, as the family left the house following the dramatic climax of the previous chapter, Noah ponders the outcome of the evening. The family had just had dinner, and with full bellies, they decide to do a spot of caroling. Then they also take a quick stroll down to the Winterfest before the night is out. And while they're also down there, um, they bump into Jesse Tillman, who is the antagonist of one of the antagonists of the entire story, and um, the whole evening of the caroling, is kind of forgotten, and you have this one last big, showdown of the main antagonist for the story, and he decides when he shows up and is pressuring Lucas or whatever it is. That it's just not worth it when the rest of the boys come along. But yeah, so there's that. But coming up tonight now, after the Winterfest, the boys all sit down after going back to Noah's bedroom and whatnot, and Elijah gets to telling the story of what actually happened with his kidnappers in the time that you missed, while Noah and Jack and that and everything were all grieving for the loss of one of their members of their groups, one of their group, and also, um, while Jack was running around doing all the planning to get more boys on board to help with the raid. But you find out a little bit more about what happened, and the tale draws everybody in, and eventually they all head off the bed, with the words of Elijah's bravery echoing in their minds as that whole kind of storyline comes to a close. But yeah, the following day, Noah is woken by the twins saying that Santa has come, of course, and they're ecstatic because it's Santa and their kids. But yeah, so the whole house is woken up, and they're all, huddled down the stairs and into the living room. They all take their place around the chairs, the way they're set up, and by the Christmas tree, and then of course Christmas presents are given out, um, and of course Elijah is not expecting it, but he gets presents that he wasn't expecting, of course, and the family show more signs of generosity, and they end up doing a little something that makes Elijah and his parents a little bit teary-eyed in that aspect. But yeah, so then there's that, and then of course, um, there's also a bit of talk about Noah and Elijah sealing their future. Now, I don't know how far we're going to get through on this book today because there is about 50 pages, I'm assuming, between here and the ending, but I'll probably only get through one chapter, so I gotta see how that goes first. But also, while I'm here, if you're not on my mailing list, make sure you sign up to my mailing list. I'll be sending out a short story around the 24th, 25th, hopefully. But it'll definitely be out during the Christmas holidays. Sorry. Okay. I'll be sending out a Christmas story, of course, and it'll only be available on my mailing list and also Patreon. So, yeah, definitely sign up for that freebie. You'll also I'm just not remembering M from last night. But anyway, um, yeah. So that's that. I know why did I put that in my head. But yeah. Anyway, moving on. Uh, you can also. I just thought it'd be kind of cool to share. I don't think anybody knows or not, but I do have other paperback equivalents of some of my other books. Like if you're interested, so I also have You and I. You can get this Amazon and stuff like that. I have We Are Here, which also has 18 of my short stories from that I've posted across most social media sites. I will be making a second installment of this in the future, which will have another 18 of my short stories. But I'm not too sure when that'll be out because it's more or less a compilation of my stories. Then, of course, I have A Case of Jitters, which it takes place in New Haven, and it's about kind of overcoming bullying or whatever it is to kind of not fall in love with this boy, but kind of to be who you really want to be, not letting bullying stop you. And then, of course, Chasing Christmas, which we're reading. But that's just some of the paperback books that I have. But anyway, since we were talking about New Haven, while I'm waiting for a few minutes, I just need to keep an eye on the timer. But yeah, so since we're talking about that, I thought I'll share a little tidbit with you for my upcoming short story called It Would Be You. It's a Christmas story, of course. But yeah. So usually when I start creating a story, I kind of create a thing called like a vision board, so I have an idea of what the story overall looks like, what the characters might look like, the world. And this is usually before I start doing the research, and it's just kind of the visual aspect for me because I'm a very hypersensitive visual person. I need to see what it is I'm going for. And I thought I'd share a couple of these. Now, of course, these are real people and they're real locations, but they serve no reference to who the real people actually are, of course. So it's just more or less as a stand-in so that I can kind of have an idea of what this person looks like or what the location is like. But so I thought I'd introduce you to the three main characters of the story. So working crossways, if you can. Oops, sorry. Okay, so walking. Sorry, give me a second. Okay, so working across ways, we have the three main ensemble of our cast here. So we have Dominic McCready, which is going to be the protagonist. It's probably the first time I've actually had a male adult protagonist that's probably this long, except for sometimes with reality. And I'm kind of liking the change of pace, you know what I mean, from writing kids all the time. I want to try and experiment with new. Hi, Ethan. How are you doing? It's nice to see you. But yeah, anyway, Dominic McCready, he's a 37-year-old guy, gay guy, who's recently lost his husband, and he is kind of in a bit of a bereavement period, and he's trying to make a new life for him and his son, Eric, which is this lad here. Eric McCready is about 8, and of course, he doesn't kind of understand all the ramifications of bereavement and, grown-ups, because grown-ups can be quite, complicated, I guess, at times, more so than kids, because kids are just so, you know, honest, blatantly honest, I guess you could say. And, as you kind of get older with age, you kind of, you know, you're kind of a little bit more reserved about certain things. But anyway, and of course, then the love interest, which is Robert Stultz, which is this guy. But yeah, anyway, the three of them. Robert Stultz is a doctor, and he like a GP, and he comes across Robert. Oh, sorry, not Robert. Dominic and Eric during Eric's consultation or whatever it is, and he's recently moved to a small island called Orisund, which is off the coast of. It's off the coast of New Haven. Sorry, I had to think for a second. But yeah, it's kind of kind of reintroducing some places and locations that I've introduced in the past, but just but anyway, yeah, so they're the three main characters, and I can't wait to share them with you. It's going to be really cool. And of course, I just thought I'd share this really quickly as well. It's kind of an idea of what I kind of envisioned for the little town, the civilization that they have out on the island. But it's it's kind of very Christmassy, and it's everything is kind of festive. I kind of pictured it like one of those small towns, and like in the base of the Rockies or something like that, or in Canada, Um, but yeah, it's one of those, but just only out on an island. Um, so anyway, I guess I was kind of a little bit inspired by the TV series Midnight Mass, just without the vampires and stuff like that, but about the island. And of course, I said I need to write a story about an island, just a love one, not a vampire one. But anyway, yeah. So there's that. So I can't wait to share it with you guys. I just said I'd offer a little bit of my inspiration board to kind of get you kind of a little bit interested, I suppose. Um, but yeah, I've been having a lot of fun writing the story of late, and it's actually turning out a little bit better than I thought it was going to turn out better. Sometimes you start a story and you're just like, oh yeah, it's an all right story, but I'm actually really enjoying the flow of this story. I think it's going to be a cute, little sweet story. So I can't wait to share it with you anyway. But anyway, I think we'll make a start on this now. I think we're over the 10 minutes, which I usually wait for about 10 minutes for people to filter in. But if you've the paperback equivalent now, we're going on to chapter 19. I just realized that I have the wrong caption, well, not the wrong title on this video. It needs to be changed after I finish it. But we're going on to chapter 19, which is page 319 if you have the paperback equivalent. I'm so sorry, I don't know what it is in the ebook, but I suppose you could find it in the table of contents, which ironically, in a lot of new books, they don't seem to include a table of contents. It's the most simplest of things, but that just annoys the hell out of me when authors don't include, or the publishing houses don't include, a table of contents. But yeah, I won't ramble on about why, you know what I mean? I guess it's just preferences changing, but to me, it's the easiest way to find everything in a book, and it's the simplest thing you can do. But anyway, I'll get on to this now. I'll probably only read one chapter because I don't want to split up and just have a tiny chapter at the end. So it's probably what I'll do is tonight I'll read chapter 19, and then tomorrow, which will probably be our finishing up evening, I'll read chapter 20 and also, no, like 21, I think it is it? Uh, yeah, so 20 and then the epilogue. So because they're fairly two short chapters, and I don't want to leave the epilogue because the epilogue is kind of small. But yeah, anyway, so let's get into it. With condensation hanging thickly in the air, I stepped out of the shower basin, stretching for the towel on the rack, and wrapped myself in its warm, fleecy interior. The Winterfest was pretty good. And now that we got the word out about how Elijah's family is in need of aid, I'm sure people will come together in such a time of need and provide. Tomorrow is our annual family Christmas Day party. I have it already figured. And Mom will drop a hint to all her friends and folks who turn up to add a little contribution to a wicker basket she's set up in the foyer. In the dense cloud, I flow toward the sink in a heavenly aura. Since the family arrived and our guests, everything has dwindled into madness. Yet the madness of the entire satire is what I desire. Can that be right? Is it right to live for the unexpected and craziness? Today has really been something. I've never felt as alive as I did when I made my daring rescue. Who am I to judge? I'm Noah Finch, the coward, the semi-important kid in the corner. Except this Christmas, everything has fallen right at my feet, and a small, negligent proportion of my brain craves more of what I did tonight. I'm not sure if it means I want more danger in my appetite. However, I believe the word I'm looking for is an adventure. Retrieving my toothbrush from the vanity, I squeeze the modest amount of toothpaste from the tube and rinse the bristles under the faucet. Securing my towel around my waist, I grabbed the phone I had brought into the bathroom from the top of the clothes pile, dropped the toilet seat, and sit down. Scrubbing hard against my teeth, I worked away the day's build-up. Clear, Elijah feels the same way I do. I mean, who else would kiss like that? On second thought, why would Elijah kiss me at all if he wasn't interested? Is it too early to announce to the boy I want to date him? In secret, of course. Am I allowed to do that? The real thought is, will it hurt Elijah if I try to keep it a secret? Before I go jumping to conclusions, perhaps I should do some research. Firing up Safari on my phone, I scroll from website to website looking for answers that I am too embarrassed to ask my parents for answers to, all along brushing my teeth. After all, nobody must know that I am this way other than the guys. Studying bullet points from each feed, my mind begins to tizzy from the selection of options available. Yet at the same time, my stomach is queasy again. How can it be Elijah is nowhere to be found, and he has a profound effect on my body without him having to be present? Glancing over the current options, it reads, use a cheesy icebreaker, or don't overthink it. Just approach the girl and ask her out. Some use that I conclude, if I was asking out a girl, I reckon it would be useful, but do they have websites on how to ask boys out if you are a boy? I presume it is hard to find on the internet. So many must think such a thing is sort of wrong. Then again, perhaps I'm looking in the wrong place. Navigating back to the search column, I type in the word gay at the top of the feed and ponder a moment. I didn't think the word would sting so much, but it hurts in a way because I just want to be normal. Yet at the same time, I'm happy I'm not normal, if that makes sense. Tapping search, a new series of results flipped the small screen of my iPhone. I clicked on this first search result. The first step in the process said, try to do straight male stuff to determine if he's gay. Some flutter energy evolves in my chest. A light chuckle breaks the surface, and I conclude, no shit, Ahab. I have already figured Elijah is gay. Tell me something I don't know already. Tumming the slider on the page upward, I scroll down the long list of steps to try and find a word that would stick out to me amongst all the noise. A clamour resettled at the surface of the bathroom door. Looking up at the exit, the knocks repeat 3 times. I need to take a shit, Noah. If you're finished rubbing one out, I'd like to go all the same, Thomas urgently pleaded from outside on the landing. Startled a moment, grinning the next, removing the toothbrush from my mouth, I carefully tilt my head up as to not spill any liquid. I shouted back awkwardly with a mouthful of paste to Thomas, Then go outside door. Oddly, I know the statement will rile him up. That's what brothers are supposed to do. Anxiously waiting for his response, I sat looking at the door, and without delay, Thomas pounded on the door again. I'm serious, Thomas begged. Concluding I cannot be mean, even if I meant to be, I groaned. Getting up from the toilet, I raced to the sink, spit the remnants of the toothpaste in my mouth into the bowl, rinsed my mouth out, and washed the brush off. Scurrying to the towel rack, I wiped my mouth with the hand towel before picking up my bundle of clothing, sitting my iPhone atop, and pacing for the door. Unlatching the bolt on the back of the entry, Thomas burst in, pushing me as I revolved out onto the landing. In passing, both of us gave each other a knowing smirk, and a second later, the hatch slammed shut, and the latch slid across on the other side of the door. Naked in the midst of a hectic family gathering, I conclude I should go get dressed before something dreadful happens. Ensuring my towel is wrapped tightly around my waist, I saunter into Thomas's bedroom, shove the door in, and close it behind me. Placing fresh pajamas on the dresser inside the door, I look around the room. Thomas's chamber is much cleaner than mine. Not that mine is inherently messier, but you'd consider Thomas to be a slob compared to me. Ditching my towel, I pluck my briefs off the top of the pile and climb into them. As I swiftly dress, the boys in my room can be heard conversing amongst themselves, whereas the parents downstairs are laughing boisterously to the point it's almost annoying. I guess a couple of people have had too much wine. In a couple of hours, I'll wake up and Christmas will be here. Not long after that, the presents will be opened, Christmas dinner will be eaten, and the party will have begun. Since we came back from the festival, everything has been go, 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 to the point to get us all settled for the night. We were less than 10 minutes in the door when Aunt Annie and my mom dropped the hint that we should have showers and turn in early. The twins were the first to receive the scalding, and I am the last. Slipping into a pair of black and grey camouflage flannel, I donned a t-shirt and baggy pants. Reflecting if everything is done, I run a mental checklist in my head. Shower, teeth, PJs, check, check, check. Reaching up onto the high dresser, I retrieved my phone while pressing on the lever for Thomas's door. Instantaneously, my cell came to life, and the time on the front lock screen showcased 10:31 p.m. To be frank, it has been a long day, and my bones are tired. And after a shower, I don't think I have any energy left to stay awake. Plodding back to my room, I passed through the open frame, and the boys jeered as I came to the door. All the beds had been set up, and everyone had taken their places. Everyone except Elijah. I grinned tiredly at the boys. My mind numbs from all the adrenaline hype of the day. My eyes are heavy and hot, and my legs weak and fragile. As for my bunk beds, Lucas claimed the top bunk for himself, as always. Ben slumped sideways, facing me and my bed on the lower mattress, whereas Adam sat in the pull-out slot from under my bed. My eyes trailed across to the double blow-up airbed, and I immediately grew uncomfortable. Elijah and I sharing a bed. I know I like him and all, but I don't think I'm ready for that sort of thing. Why did the twins have to take the two bottom bunks? Lucas had been laying down in the top bed, yet sprung up suddenly upon hearing my voice, his hair messy and unkempt. Without delay, Lucas freed himself from the blankets, edged off the side of the bunk, and climbed down the ladder barefoot. Upon reaching the ground, Lucas gave a dour expression at the twins. Take my bed, and I take your life, Lucas divulged. A millisecond later, a contorted grin bestowed his features, and I giggled. Sauntering away from the beds, Lucas passed by me as I walked into the room. Where are you going? Adam called out after Lucas. Toilet, Lucas responded. Once Lucas left, I mumbled quietly to the boys, I can imagine Thomas left one hell of a surprise for him. Smiles across everybody's faces, and I beamed for having caught up with the game Lucas had been playing earlier with Elijah. Elijah was a wit. Elijah has the wittiness, and I can be sarcastic. As always, the twins are exact carbon copies, both wearing the same one-piece PJs, one red and one blue color being the only way to tell them apart. Now, if they were wearing the same onesies, I'd take them out. I'd take time out to make fun of them, but enough messing around has happened today and I'm spent. Lucas, on the other hand, didn't really care what he wore. When he was leaving, he was just wearing a pair of grey shorts and a black t shirt with a Jurassic Park dinosaur on it, while Elijah sits uncomfortably looking at the air mattress on the ground, wearing a pair of baggy Nike shorts and a white t shirt. Seeing as the two of us will feel out of our comfort zone in the blow up bed together, I glance at the two twins and point at them. Thing one and thing two, you have the blow up, I starkly said. The vibe in the room shifted and Ben's annoyance became abundantly clear. What? Are you serious? We were here first, Ben piped up. I looked at the air mattress again, considering the proposition that the two of us could make it through the night without feeling incredibly embarrassed, except when I pull out all the stops, the twins are younger. They are brothers. Furthermore, they are twins. My room, my beds, my roads, I stated loudly. Reverting my attention from the twins, I locked eyes with Elijah. Shortness of breath made itself present in my chest. My eyesight didn't exactly know how to focus. Plus, Elijah is our guest. He's not sleeping on an air mattress, I anxiously added, with my heart drumming in my rib cage. But we're guests too, Ben shot back as if to counteract my statement. Only I gave the twins a knowing look. Everyone in the family knows that expression. It means I have had the last say and I really need you to do this, so please don't make it difficult. Without having to utter another word, the twins accepted their fate, and Ben untangled himself from the bed sheets and slid out of the bed, while Adam untwisted from the blankets, taking the pillow he had with him and crawling across the bottom bunk. Adam tossed the pad across to the side of the blow-up bed he wanted to sleep on before stretching out and bridging the gap between the two sleeping arrangements. Instantly, Elijah spoke up, presumably feeling guilty for moving the two twins. They can stay in, Elijah went to say before I cut him off. With a shrug of my shoulders, I said, it's okay. They are used to it. Seeing as the two twins didn't protest any further, I decided to move past the point as quickly and as smoothly as possible. Nodding at the bed which Elijah sat on, I murmur, you can take that bed. Lacking any reason as to not do so, Elijah got off the bed and climbed into it, leaving the covers resting over his legs. Likewise, Adam had the same idea. My cousin loves to be snug, cozy. Therefore, Adam has dragged the blankets all the way up to his neck so that only a mop of hair and a small face can be seen. Seeing that I have no other business to fill, I tread across the room barefooted toward the pullout. Yet, seeing as I didn't pick up my trophy from earlier in the morning, I first wander the extra distance to the window, pluck it up, and set it carefully back on the window ledge. I'm surprised how many times this icon has hit the floor since I got it. If anything, if I left it on the floor, will gravity work against the odds and possibly put it back on the window shelf before I can even figure out that it's been on the floor? Rumbling back to the bed, I plopped down on the mattress. I have forgotten how incredibly low the pullout is to the floor. Nonetheless, I sit cross-legged atop the covers and glance up to Elijah. I smiled meekly, not because I have given my bed up, but because it's weird comprehending I'm going to sleep beside Elijah Abernathy of all people. who I never thought in a million years I would be falling asleep beside. On the far side of the bunks, Ben lay benched on his stomach, dangling his feet in the air as he talked some mindless babble with his brother. Eventually, Lucas came back. A hand snapped in from the darkened landing. The fingers joined, clasped on the woodwork of the frame, and a loud of grunting could be heard in the hallway. A sudden thrust from outside the door. Lucas brushed against the wall to the left of the door and breathed out raggedly, savouring breaths. My first notion is to question what the hell this fool is up to. However, my question is answered without having to ask. Lucas drew his hand to his nose and pegged it shut as a joke. He acts as if he's going to die from some sort of chemical spill. Then, in a gruff voice, Lucas said, "I barely made it out alive." A warm, elated sensation flooded the insides of my stomach, and it jiggled with laughter. Suddenly, on the bed beside me, Elijah let out a hearty giggle, which is too cute not to ignore, yet without realizing it, my intense stare found its way to Elijah's eyes, and he ceased laughing. The room silenced, and my attention is drawn to the fact that my cousins were looking at Elijah and me. I'd gotten so hopelessly lost in his eyes that I didn't want to tear myself from them. Shooting Lucas a coy smirk and a roll of the eyes, he then carried on as if nothing happened, and the giggles from all the lads died down. Elijah and I gave one last look at one another before brushing the moment and its meaning beneath the rug. Ascending the ladder to the top bunk, Lucas rolled himself in the blankets, and from the noise of his tossing and turning, I'm contemplating on saying, "Take it easy." The room fell quiet after Lucas ceased his squirming above us. In the stillness that persisted, it is too quiet for five lads not to take advantage of it. Reflecting on the day that had just passed, I can't believe we are all finally settling down, getting ready to sleep, and yet to think of it, none of us are hurt. I wonder what those two older boys are doing. I know as much as it is our fault for throwing a snowball. Well, it's Lucas's fault for throwing the snowball. Except in the feud, I hope we didn't seriously hurt the older boys. Somehow I wouldn't have liked that even if they were mean to us. I can't quite explain how a simple snowball to the face can set someone off like that. But again, I don't know who these guys are or what their day-to-day lives might be like. Sighing out loud, I dropped my head back and tilted up toward the ceiling. I hear myself gently mumble, "Today was crazy." Ben stated from across the ways with a hint of animation. Elijah was totally sick today. The dull, lifeless agreement of four boys filled the room before we fell silent again. Yet looking up at Elijah, he shook his head in disagreement. My eyes widened. I bravely nodded back to him to show that I believed what both boys were saying is true. Some shuffling could be heard in the top bunk above. Over draped Lucas's head, cloaked with a mop of hair dangling downward. "What happened when they took you?" Lucas asked. Now that seems like an excellent question to ask, and with that I shifted my attention to Elijah, sitting in the bed, giving him pleading eyes to tell me what had happened. Elijah looked about the room, deciding whether or not to tell us his side of the story. Eventually, with all the faces staring at him, Elijah caved. Waving his hands about, he agreed to discuss. Elijah readied himself before beginning, and then let the words flow. "Not much, actually. The beanie guy was actually nice in a weird way. The guy was pretending to be a douche. His name is Jesse, as far as I can remember, but he wasn't the mastermind of the plot. The other guy that he was with forced him along. Jesse was probably unaware that he was being manipulated." Noah and I were running down the stairs in the car park after leaving Ben behind. I was petrified that they were going to catch us, and they did. Me, I mean. One moment I'm running and Noah was right behind me. The next I go to look over my shoulder and he's gone. Sensing my heart sink, I glanced down to the bed covers with shame for having left Elijah to deal with the problem on his own. I ought to have taken whatever was coming my way. I shouldn't have run off. I should have stayed where I was rather than bursting out that window and fleeing. I hope they didn't hurt him. Peering up at Elijah, I hesitated to ask the question. Elijah carried on looking at all the boys around him who were listening closely. Then, before I can think what is what, I have my head pressed against the concrete ledge on the vent where Noah apparently jumped out. Elijah added, looking down to me. There it is. Elijah hates me for having left him. Yet no such contempt is present in his eyes, and no sign of hatred either. His eyes warmed, and Elijah smiled meekly at me. I didn't want to ask, but I knew I'd have to. I didn't have time to go back to get Elijah. I know at the time I was only thinking of my best interests, and that was wrong. A split second can change everything, and for me, I'm lucky enough to have escaped that second, yet still have a fortunate outcome. I don't know how I'd manage to go about things if I found out something bad had happened to Elijah. I didn't even see them closing in on me, Elijah mumbled to himself as he became a little anxious. Elijah is obviously reliving the event in his head, and that is something I don't desire to see. If I can go back to change time, I would have Elijah jumping out the window and the teens taking me captive. Or possibly if they took both of us, though then I wouldn't have been able to make a daring rescue. With anguish emotions swishing and swirling inside me, my heart raced in my chest and I broached the topic. It's on the tip of my tongue. They didn't hurt you, did they? I nervously asked, not breaking eye contact with Elijah. The two of us stared each other down without as much as blinking, yet nothing harsh came from our connection. I lingered intently on his dismay, and if those older boys had hurt him, I would make damn well sure and make them pay. Elijah spoke earnestly to me, ignoring all the other boys. No, he threatened me. The boy, not Jesse, the other kid. The other guy said he'd cut off my ear if I had to make him run after me. I wasn't expecting to hear that of all things. Thankfully, nothing became of that, and Elijah made it through the ordeal without a scratch on his beautiful body. And did you run? Lucas blurted. I had completely forgotten that my cousin was dangling from the bed up top, and when I looked up, it's clear to see his face has gotten a little red from his position he is propped in. Are you kidding? Elijah chuckled. I like my ears. That statement had gotten a bit of a warm welcome amongst the lads. We all sniggered to that one. Elijah carried on as if anxious to get the entire story out before his memory starts to stray off on a specific detail. For the rest of the journey to the shack, it was continuous. If I slowed down, they would push me for walking too slow. If I sped up, they dragged me back for walking too fast, Elijah stated calmly. I still can't believe how someone could be so cruel to a person like Elijah Albernati. This boy is the sweetest person I've ever met, and it's saddening to think that he got twisted up in all this nonsense because of something Lucas did. Of course, the times things can go wrong. The first time he meets Lucas, he ends up getting kidnapped. Our family makes lasting impressions, don't we? Lucas scoffed. So, are you telling me you went willingly? Well, yes, I was alone, and they were bigger than me, Elijah stated, poking his head out from beneath the bunk to look up at Lucas. followed by Elijah reverting back to himself and growing quiet. Nobody spoke, and not as much as a pin drop could be heard. I didn't think you guys would come, Elijah spoke softly. As soon as those words left his mouth, Elijah seemed to regret having voiced them. Lucas bravely spoke. One thing for sure, our family is cowards. A tin smirk crossed Elijah's mouth, and the twins, Ben and Adam, sniggered amongst themselves. A meager smile crossed my lips, and I bowed my head to not offend Lucas, yet I decided to hell with it. Do I need to remind you about the pizza joint? I spluttered. No, no. Lucas sighed, then chuckled. Elijah looked at me as if asking permission to finish the story, and I gave him the approving nod. And the other kid was getting creeped out by me looking at him, so that's why they tied me up. Elijah finished before sighing contentedly. Regretfully, I murmured, It shouldn't have happened to you. Elijah may never understand how painstakingly sorry I am, although if my actions were noble enough, Elijah ought to realize that I'm not all that bad if I came to get him back. I wonder how the story will go in years to come. Will Elijah say that some weird kid who barely exists on the social uh, radar in school came to his rescue? Elijah smiled at me. His eyes lit up and touched me. Elijah spoke softly. I love that quality. It makes up for it all, that all of you came back to break me out. Unable to hold back my relief, I smiled back to Elijah. Yeah, we were like badasses, Ben animatedly said. Yeah, badasses, I cheered. Soon a little chant had begun, and everyone proudly sang the words until a knock resounded the door. Shh! Aunt Annie shushed, followed by, All right, guys, time to pack it in for the night. Not missing a beat, Adam proclaimed loudly, Please, Mom, can we have a couple more minutes? Santa won't come if you don't go to sleep, Aunt Annie cut in, determined to settle us bunch of rowdy boys. I looked around to see what everyone else's reaction is to my aunt's statement and noticed that everyone is busy paying her attention. Nobody else seems to have objections, and I, for one, don't think I can disagree. I'm beat. Being a hero is tiring work. Let's hope this fame does not go to my head. I know Santa is not real. You have the presents, Adam began to say. I tilted my head up to Lucas, sensing him look down in my direction again, and the two of us grinned at one another. Hush now, that's foolish talk. You'll kill the reindeer talking like that, and he spoke, and with a slur. I think she had a too few many glasses of wine. I turned my attention to Elijah, who peered over his shoulder to me and cracked a cheeky grin. I gave a tooted smile back, and I felt my face warming. Without waiting for further objection, and Annie spoke directly to all of us. Now, off with you all. Not putting up a fight, everyone crawled under their covers. I pulled the blankets up to my neck. I like to be snug and cozy, just like Ben. Aunt Annie wished us all good night and then switched off the light before closing the door. For the next couple of minutes, folks moved in their beds trying to get comfy. I stared up at the ceiling, waiting for sleep to take me. Perhaps somewhere off in the black mist, my life will somehow dwindle away, and when I wake up in the morning, everything I am ashamed of will magically be altered and done for me without having to do it for myself. Out in the dark, I heard Lucas mumble, What a day. I was beginning to zone out and relax. Whoever invented bed deserves all the success they got. Letting the effects of the day wash over me, I slip into the subconscious, only to be roused by someone moving beside me. Something came close to my head, its warm breath fanned at my ear, its scent smelling of mint. My eyes flutter open to the darkness to make out the shape from the bed next to me, hovering over me. Can I hold your hand? Came a whisper, soft sounding voice in the darkness. I knew who it is immediately, and without saying anything, I searched for Elijah's hand, locked fingers with it, and lay back down. Wow, everything really is working out for me, I concluded. How lucky can I be? A beautiful boy wants to hold my hand for the second time today. Snug under the blankets, I close my eyes to let the sound of gentle breathing take me to the land of blankets and pillows. That is, until the twins on the airbed begin to disrupt the heavenly peace. They tossed and turned for some time until the noise was getting agitating. Move one more time, and it will be the last time you ever do, Lucas cut in from above. Not a moment went by before Elijah sniggered in the bed above me. I squeezed his hand and smiled in the darkness. That is when sleep took me, and I didn't put up a fight. Okay. Um. Yeah. Just reading that the bluntness of Lucas with the brothers is it's still amusing to me. But yeah, who wouldn't want a big brother like that? That's kind of moving you're dead kind of vibe off him all the time. But let me see. We're only 45. Title of your next book: Death on a Bunk Bed in a House on a Train. Chapter 1: Laying on the bottom bunk, I'm suddenly wake up as an arm dropped over the top and something drips on my face. I wonder what drips on the face. Is that blood, I guess? Or something else? If it's not PG-13, don't mention it. But anyway, so let me see. What page am I on? I'm on. Maybe I could push. Maybe I could push for the ending tonight. Fuck it, I'll push for the ending. Okay. So, wake up, came a youthful voice. Stirring, I reached out into the blackness. Darkness cloaked me until I drew out of it to find Ben rocking me awake. Dumbly, I sat up in confusion. Here I am thinking something is wrong. What's happening? Is everything okay? I groggily reflect. My mind is numb. Thinking is a hard thing to do at this hour. Worst of all, there is no daylight flooding into my room. Must be that twilight hour where there is just enough dawning in the sky, accompanied with the streetlights, to offer a substitute to be able to make out someone in the dark visually. Ben resorted to prodding me to get up, and I groaned, slapping my hands in the darkness towards his intrusion. Growing somewhat agitated by his rude awakening, I huffed and said, "Fine." The annoyance immediately stopped and then stepped back from the bed. Tilting my head back on the pillow, I look at the alarm clock on the nightstand behind me. The red numerical digits displayed 5:15 a.m. What in the name of all things holy is Ben waking me up at this hour for? Flopping over onto my front, I groaned into the pad and pressed my face into the pillow. Go back to sleep, I moaned. Only my distaste for the wake up call didn't last long. A large thud boomed at the base of the bed. Springing up into a sitting position, I squint my eyes to make out the figurine in the dark. It's Lucas. He jumped off the top bunk rather than taking the ladder. Lucas paced around the room excitedly. Then I found myself thinking, why is Lucas and Ben in my bedroom? No matter how hard I try to understand, nothing comes to mind. Clenching my fist, I can't close my right hand entirely because I was latched onto something. Reaching for the drawstring on my lamp in fright, I pluck at it. A dim light flooded the room. I found myself squinting harshly at the intense rays and trying to make heads or tails of the situation. A cloud of brain fog sits listlessly in the front portion of my brain, preventing me from piecing together the solution. My cousins snarled like vampires and covered their eyes, and I too blindly shift my attention to the bottom bunk of my bed to see Elijah Abernathy lying in it. Blinking my eyes, I am suddenly alert and awake, and Elijah is holding my hand. My heart races in my chest. I'm not dreaming, am I? Blinking my eyes 3 times, I conclude that everything that is happening now is present reality. For a moment, I consider everything that I have dreamt up about rescuing Elijah was a twisted dream of mine. But how do you explain the cutest boy in the entire school holding my hand and sleeping in my bed? Oh gosh, I kissed Elijah Abernathy yesterday. Yesterday did happen. I no longer wanted to groan. Instead, I am taken aback with shock, yet I'm profoundly happy. Lucas sprinted up and down the narrow corridor between my dresser and bed. My cousin seemed more alert in life than the two 10-year-old boys, experiencing a burning sensation in my eyeballs. I shut my eyes to relieve the sting, only to open them to find Elijah staring back at me. Slight arousal takes place in my crotch. I think I'm going to faint. Scratch the bad lighting, scorching my marbles. I don't care how many times I'd have to wake up in the mornings for school, have to endure burning sun after a perfect slumber, if only I'd get to see Elijah's face when I open from a deep sleep. Elijah smirked. My heart flutters. God, I'm still holding his hand. The way Elijah is lying, peering across to me in the most beautiful picture I have ever seen in my life. Who needs sunshine when you can wake up to that beauty every morning for the rest of your life? His hair is tousled, yet still adorably cute, and he looks just as he did last night, as if he recently got out of the shower. I guess we're up, Elijah asked, before beaming his golden rays in my direction. Ben and Lucas had started to perform some clapping game, and it took me from the moment. Looking across to them, Lucas glanced over at me. Then I realized Elijah and I are still holding hands, and I immediately let go. A flush of embarrassment warmed my insides. My cheeks seemed as they could burst, and a stiffening erection is starting to push up at my pajama bottoms. Lucas looks at me. I watch him, and I absently wipe my clammy hand in the blankets. Yet nothing more is brought up about the predicament. Instead, Lucas let go of the excitement he was feeling and skipped around the bedroom. It's rather funny to see how Lucas is usually the first. It's usually it's rather funny to see how Lucas is usually the first to want to get up on Christmas morning, yet the two 10-year-olds are typically the last. Peering over toward the blow-up bed, Adam finally sat up, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. I often wonder if my cousins get up at the crack of dawn when they're in New York. I wouldn't think so, considering they are always here for Christmas and at 7 a.m. is the bare minimum. Affirming my decision, I decide to go with the flow. Grabbing the hem of my sheets, I tossed them to the side and slid out of bed. Ahead, the twins crack open the door and spill out into the landing, and Lucas following suit. Making for the door, I glimpse behind to see Elijah crawling out of bed. His skin is so shiny and bright, and his eyes sparkle. It's almost as if yesterday never happened and that I'm living inside a dream that I don't ever want to wake up from. I'm not sure if it was a bad thing to do to let go of his hand when the first onlooker saw us, except I'm still nervous about the whole deal. I don't want my world imploding around me. Part of me just wants to hang on to the last bit of normality I have left. Elijah slid to the edge of the mattress before doffing the covers. He reached below the blankets, rearranged something where his lap ought to be, and then he came bounding over. Just before, sorry, did I just see Elijah adjusting himself? Now that is a thought I will take with me to the grave. Vacating the room, I stumble out onto the darkened hallway. The twins are going from door to door, knocking on all the doors until they stop outside Thomas's and continually knock. Their mom and dad are sleeping in Thomas's room. I know they want to wake them up. Finally, There is a groaning sound coming from inside the room. A muffled shout comes from within Thomas's room. I'll be down. Geez, give me a minute. Grinning, I understand how my aunt and uncle feel. I got the same rude awakening, and even being awake right now is jarring. Chuckling, Elijah gives uh, a small crackle also at the sight unfolding before us. Lucas broke for the stairs, and within a second he disappeared down into the darkness. Squinting my eyes toward the orbs and splotchy contours, I made my way over toward the light switch, flicked it on, and descended the levels. A mystic sensation gloats in the air. It's comforting to the soul. The early hours are typically not something I would look forward to. However, being up this early with the notion of what is going to happen is sending a surge of electricity through my body from the excitement. Just knowing what is going to happen, yet a certain aura revolves around everyone. It's magic. Crossing the threshold into the living room, I passed by Thomas. I had forgotten that he was sleeping on the couch. I think he is headed for my room. Perhaps the toilet. It is true, my brother would sleep through a war or a 747 taken off either way. Thomas sleeps heavily. However, not today. Lucas had switched the light on and plugged in the Christmas tree. I have always loved this time on the Christmas morning, descending the stairs and laying in wait to receive my gifts. Sitting down on the couch, I appreciate the silence before the entire family comes wandering down to tear open boxes, only to realize how much we each love each other with the dollars spent. On the mantelpiece, 5 stockings draped the entire strip of wood, while the Christmas tree had been erected to the right of the fireplace. Glancing around, a garland trailed around the end table with photographs. Christmas cards sat on Mom's floating shelves in a disorganized manner. There is so much color and cheerfulness that I think I'm going to be sick. I can't help but notice a kitten with a Santa hat on it. Now that's cute. In the front window, lights slowly come on and fade out, only for the same process to repeat. A couple of minutes pass, and by the time Lucas has taken his place on the sofa directly across, and Elijah and I sit next to one another facing Lucas. The temperature from earlier in the night has dropped, and now it is a little chilly. The twins are busy rummaging beneath the tree, unable to control their excitement. Their energy is felt in the room, except for Lucas, who sits ruffling his hair and yawning. It is amusing to watch a master at work, considering he is the one who got us all down here and he's the first one to start yawning. Soon our parents arrive in the archway. Aunt Annie appears to be a little drunk from all the wine she consumed during the wrapping fest. Mom suggests we'll go. Mom suggests she'll go put on the coffee and disappears down the narrow galley into the kitchen. Annie wanders into the living room, grins at us before slopping down in an armchair by the archway. A grin crosses my face, and understanding of moral reps in my brain at seeing Aunt Annie with a hangover. Hard night, Mom? Lucas asked. Dazed, Annie glanced up from her lap over to her son and stated, You don't know the half of it. Immediately after saying that, my aunt rubbed her belly and Lucas looks at the coffee table where the milk and cookies have been. Now, however, only a handful of crumbs gave evidence of cookies, and only a half-eaten carrot remained. Before we went up to our showers earlier in the night, the two twins really packed that plate with cookies. I smiled knowingly at how Aunt Annie must have eaten the entire dish, just like Lucas would do if he had been given a chance. Shifting my attention back to to Lucas, his focus is held on the carrot on the coffee table. Without thinking, Lucas snaps up the vegetable, smiling knowingly across the both Elijah and me, Annie lifted it up to his mouth and took a chunk from the carrot. Lucas proceeded to chomp and munch the vegetable when Ben noticed his brother eating the carrot. His reflux got the better of him, and Ben groused, "Ew, a reindeer was eating that." Scanning Lucas for an answer, I just somehow knew that he'd come up with something sarcastic. "A reindeer indeed," Lucas quipped, shifting his attention back to me. I gave a light chuckle. A thumping came from the right toward my en- toward my a thumping coming from the right turned my attention to the foyer, where Dad came down the stairs and strolled into the living room, bursting with enthusiasm. Everyone wishes Dad a good morning, to where Dad potters to the tree and looks under at all the presents beneath, and then back to Aunt Annie lazing about in the armchair. It's almost as if Dad is noting that they all did a good job without screwing up, even after a couple of drinks. Adam looked up at my dad with a pleading expression. "Can we start?" Adam asked. Dad, on the other hand, is almost religious about the concept of having everyone present in the room when we open gifts. It's a better atmosphere, he says. I can already presume what Dad's response is going to be before the words leave his mouth, except a voice came from the foyer, twisting my head in my direction of the new arrival. Andy and Grandma had reached the bottom of the stairs when Grandma spoke. "Let him start," Grandma said. Dad froze a moment to process Grandma's request and looked at the twins sitting cross-legged on the floor, then gave a sigh of relief and carried on. Hearing a knock to my right, Mom had returned with the coffee, and before entering the sitting room, she knocked on the office door where Elijah's parents had been given to sleep, as Dad has a large pull-out in his study. Scooting over on the sofa, Grandma sits beside me and chuckles. A radiant, a radiant smile. uh, a smile as radiant as hers is almost off-putting that I think Grandma is brighter than the Christmas tree. In the corner, Annie gave the official nod of approval, and Dad ducked beneath the authentic decaying pine tree. Mom always wants a real tree for Christmas, and it has gotten to the point that I forgot to put water under it most mornings. Last year, I almost killed the tree, but good thing my mother remembered. Wait, did I put water under the tree this morning? Yikes. I'm guilty as fuck. Excitedly, Grandma begins to rub my hair tenderly with excitement as the two twins tear apart presents at random. Every year the boys take over the scene, to the point that nobody else gets a look in when they go on a rampage. I wonder how long it will take for one of the rents to say, "Slow down, Ben and Adam. Boys, boys, let others open some presents," Dad murmured. Ah, it didn't take long for somebody to speak up about self-indulgence. I have always been taught to allow others the chance to open their gifts and show what they got. Taking it in turns also delays and extends the excitement factor. However, what is more shocking is the fact that the boys spring up from the floor without as much as a compliment and sit on the couch opposite and take heed to Dad's suggestion. It is obvious the lads are full of beans, yet behind all of it, they are allowing others to get a look in. Dad pulled out a gift from under the display and looked at the little card attached to the parcel before passing it down the sofa to Lucas. Lucas's eyes lit up with surprise, and he hungrily took the gift and set it on his lap. Sticking his fingers under the lip of the jacket, Lucas tore the bright red green paper from the package and unravelled a reasonably big box. Displayed on the side of the gift in large black font, it said, along with a picture of a drone, "Sky Viper stunt drone." The look on Lucas's face seemed ecstatic. Back in New York, Lucas has a friend called Sam, and the two of them like to arrange drone wars out at Breezy Point. I have heard many stories of how the two have had completely torn their drones apart in the sky. If I were ever to go to NYC, I'd say that experience would be cool. My dad reached under the pine tree, retrieved another parcel, and handed it over to our couch. I passed the present to Grandma, and that is when I see Elijah's parents coming from the office smiling and dressed presentably, unlike the rest of the family who are in pajamas. Looking to Elijah, his eyes lay on the gifts beneath the tree, and I immediately think I could have gotten Elijah a present. I know it's the wrong time to want to kiss him badly. I know it's the wrong time I want to kiss him, but I badly want to. But it's saddening to realize Elijah has nothing under the tree waiting for him like everyone else. Soon after, soon after, my name is called from the pile, and I get my gift handed to me. Placing the box on my lap, I contemplate. I really want to open the present, but should I give it to Elijah? Not wanting to keep people on their toes any longer, I rip open the wrapping. Undecidedly, as I pull the paper from the glossy cardboard, I see Deadpool's head. The gift is a Pop Funko, and now that I've opened it, I feel guilty for unraveling it without having a second thought. Peeking over at Thomas, who has stumbled back into the room and sat down by Lucas, I give a faint smile. And so the process continued, without Elijah receiving anything. How can this thing be fair? Why make Elijah sit here and we celebrate Christmas? This is not right. It's hurtful to do this, yet I can't seem to speak up. Instead, Adam unboxes a Nerf gun and smiles like a Cheshire cat. How is it we keep opening gift after gift and not thinking about all that Elijah has lost? This is squandering. We don't need this. We are consuming it because it seems right to do, not because we want. It's not because it is what we want. Elijah could use all the stuff beneath the tree more than anyone else in this room. Peering across to Elijah's parents, they smile in the corner. What? How can they be smiling? What is there to be what is there to be happy about? This is wrong. Sensing my throat free up of tension for a millisecond, I prepare to state what is on my mind. My heart hammers in my chest, and I feel like I can jump and keep on going to the moon. Only Dad knelt down and removed another parcel and said, Elijah? Wait, what? Did we get Elijah something for Christmas? Elijah spoke up with a raspy voice. What? Elijah said. Dad beamed. You have some gifts under the tree, son, Dad said. I am surprised just as much like Elijah. How did Dad get the time to get presents for Elijah? Scanning over the faces, Lucas seemed taken back by the display, while Adam and Ben, on the other hand, perhaps just wanted to continue on with the unwrapping so they could get the good stuff Santa brought them. A sinking sensation bubbles in my chest and down into my stomach. Realizing a tear is forming in my eye, I try desperately to hold it back. I understand it now. My dad went to the mall. That would explain why I saw the car at the car park. I ought to have checked to see if a ding is in the passenger door. I should have known. I put it there returning from baseball practice just this summer. However, now, understanding that my dad drove all the way to the mall to get Elijah something for Christmas is warming in my heart. Now I know why Dad didn't want to give me a lift. He was going to the mall to run an errand. All the same, it would have been nice to have a run in. Would have been nice to run into my father at the shopping complex. But how? Elijah stammered on the verge of crying. Dad grinned. Let's say Santa heard about your change of address. Sniffling myself, Elijah's face flushed with uncontrollable bliss, and he began to sob. The moment had apparently touched Elijah in a way nobody foresaw. Not being able to hold back my weepy emotions, I too shed a tear. By the tree, Ben asked, Why is he crying? Whereas Adam leaned in close and whispered in his brother's ear to quieten him down. Dad closed the distance to Elijah with a thoughtful expression. He placed the gift on Elijah's lap, gently, and backed away. Clandestinely, I peeked in Elijah's direction, and where is it? And, and I don't want to look at him directly as he cries, yet a part of me wants to hold him, to squeeze him tight in a hug, except I don't move, of course. I have to uphold my straight alliance for as long as possible. Dropping my head, I try to cover up the fact that I have gotten a little teary eyed due to the scene unfolding in front of me. I stare numbly at the gift Thomas got me on my lap until the blood rushes to my head. Elijah is going to need things for when he moves back into his house. I know that he will be here for a while, only I have little things that bring me comfort and showcase my personality. All these things bring happiness to me when I am alone in my bedroom, and when I see a game controller I bought because I like the design, it makes me feel at home. Just Elijah has nothing like that anymore. No home, no little things to hang up or place on a table when he gets to where he's going. Elijah will need some things to rebuild his life once things get going again. Lifting my head, I glanced across to Thomas and then directed his attention to the pop Funko on my lap. I nodded in the direction of Elijah, and after a couple of tries, Thomas understood what I was attempting to say. The best part is, Thomas gave me a nod to go ahead. In doing so, I shifted to Elijah, plucking up my Deadpool figure and hold it out for Elijah. I want you to have my Deadpool, I mumbled. Elijah turned to me. Streaks of tears shone on his face and said, I, I can't. However, determined, I don't retract my hand until Elijah takes the figurine off me. By the time my little show had been completed, I can sense everyone's eyes hot on me. Only that didn't last long, because Lucas leaned across the coffee table in the center of the room. I think you need this more than me, Lucas added, handing over his drone. Lucas placed the electronic device on the table in front of Elijah and sat back in the seat. Following Lucas, Ben said, and I want you to have mine. Ben placed his toy next to the drone on the table, and then Adam left. And that left Adam, who rested on the floor looking over his prized possession, contemplating whether he really wanted to give it up. Except Adam untangled from the floor and put his gift on the table with the others and smiled. I suppose you need mine too, Adam said, before backing away and sitting on the armrest of the couch. Elijah looked over all the contents he had been given, attempts to wipe his eyes, yet he manages to sob even harder. Reaching across, I draped my left arm over Elijah's shoulder. The other shoulder is soon taken by Lucas. Both of us are attempting to comfort a friend in a time of need. Charity means much more to those who need it than to those who will never learn what it is like to lose an important piece of one's life. The real charity benefit for me is gaining a true friend, possibly a boyfriend. Okay, so we're officially on the epilogue, so this will be ending tonight. God. Okay. I don't think I'm going to have a girlfriend to come to your party with tonight, Jack giggled. Mellow feelings released its euphoria, and I smiled at the lazily parked cars down the incline in the car park. It's funny how Elijah got upset this morning, yet it is also warming to know he appreciated it. Propped on the barrier of the ice rink, I enjoyed the solitude with Jack. Plus, I decided to wear the knitted beanie Grandma made for me. Family and friends are a pretty awesome bunch, and for the first time in years, I can see clearly now what the beanie means to me. Even if I didn't like the knitted garment Grandma made for me, wearing it brings her so much happiness. To see someone happy, that makes my heart sing. It makes me want to dance and float away with the awesome emotions. Earlier in the morning, I had asked Mom why she had taken the Abernattys in without second guessing it, or how they first came to our house for help. The truth Mom told me, it gave me goosebumps. Mom simply said, "A long time ago, Susan and I were friends, and that woman always looked out for me. Therefore, it was my turn to return the favour." I can't explain it, but I'm proud to have such a caring and compassionate mother. I grin to myself at Jack's statement and reflect on what Elijah and I are to each other. I know I have only started to accept the plausibility that there is a world outside the lie I'm living. Jack knows what I am, yet somewhere deep down, I want to be the one to say those words. I want to speak them and feel the magic float out and take me up on the most impressive high I've ever had in my entire life. I contemplate for a moment. Next, my heart is thumping and my throat is dry as worn wood after taking sandpaper to the surface. "Jack," I mumble. Rattling from the nervousness, I take a gulp of courage and splutter. "I'm gay." There it is, the silence in the background. Folks still skating comfortably, unknown to them that I have said the hardest thing I have ever said in my entire life. Breathing easy, a ghost trails upwards into the bleak sky. My legs are weak, my lungs burn, and I have the jitters. On the pathway down to the parked vehicles, three boys walk along conversing loudly, and it reminds me of us. I smile. I've no inkling as to why I'm smiling, yet as quick as it comes, it goes. Jack's silence is hurting me even more than I imagined. At the same time, my eyes scan the area in front of the rink in case those bullies, Jesse, as Elijah had said, is somewhere to be seen. Explaining the sensation is like asking how fantastic it must be to fly to a bird. Yet a part of me is watching, watching and waiting. I guess if that second time ever comes, I'll know, but I'll be waiting and I'll be prepared. The teenagers tracking the gridded path look at an iPhone, and a tall, skinny kid, donned with a beanie and gloves, reminded me of me. The teen announces loudly, "I'd smash her," before stumbling out of earshot and toward a parked car where adults waited for them. Not exactly what I envisioned, nor this is how I assumed the Christmas holidays would begin, but I'm glad I'm here. Just how many kids are out there like Elijah and me? Far too many to count on one hand, except how many of those scared kids will be who they truly wish to be? Very few. I'm sick of hiding who I am to the world. I know announcing to the world who I am is a scary thing, but it shouldn't. But it shouldn't be. I'm still the same person I have always been, and I haven't changed. I still love The Walking Dead and lots of peanut butter on my sandwiches. I still check myself out in the mirror every morning, and I still stick one foot out of the bed when it gets too warm to cope. I am still me, so why hide an excellent addition? Swallowing my saliva, I conclude I better walk away before acquaintance is prolonged any further and I grow really uncomfortable. Preparing to push away from the barrier, Jack looked at me and grinned coyly. "Does that mean I should have bought you something gay for Christmas?" Jack jeered. Hearing that, I can't explain it, but a longing for understanding comes flooding home, and I return Jack's grin. Reaching out, I ball my fist and gently bump at his shoulder. Then the two of us laugh. I can't wait for this evening. It's going to be sensational. Jack dropped his arm over my shoulder and forced me to turn around. Jack said, "It's cool, you know, that you are. Just don't be salty when I beat your ass at everything, 'cause, per usual, I'm the better one. Bigger brain, better looking even," Jack chuckled. Facing into the ice rink, I looked out to those who matter and should only matter in the centre of the ice. I beamed knowingly to myself, in part to the sight in front of me, and in part to Jack's quip. Nobody else's opinion should matter. The only ones which matter are my own. there are enough negative voices in the world that my own ought to be the only one that means anything. For the first time, I feel as if I've found my way in a noisy world, and that makes me incredibly grateful for this time and place. Elijah is skating in circles and doing what it is Elijah does. It is charismatically beautiful to me. With a gentle nudge, Jack and I broke away from the barrier, pushing, gliding across the barren land. Avoiding other happy families, I keep my eyes on my family, the only ones who matter, and I skate toward them. Right now, I feel brilliant. I want to live like this for the rest of my life. Elijah and Lucas challenged each other. They clocked and spun to outdo one another. For each of them, the ice is their stage, yet an undeniable beauty that sinks deeper than the exterior of Elijah's beauty sends a tingle of joy to my heart. And at this moment, I think, what a beautiful human being he is. Soon, Jack and I are with the ones we love, and the wholeness in my heart is overflowing with unconditional love. Elijah spins, digging his skates into the frozen floor, and stops abruptly, facing me. His eyes so bright and his soul a wonder. I want this. I need Elijah's love, every smile and kiss. I want his voice to be the first thing I hear in the morning and the last at night. Trusting forward, we stop short of each other. A surge of courage overcomes me, and I believe for a moment that anything is possible. I can feel it in my chest, the words clenching up in my throat. Except I do get them out. The boys slightly stand about. Will you be my boyfriend? I asked. Elijah's soul crushing eyes peered back at mine, and he murmured, Yes. Tears of joy swell before the dams break, and without thinking of the consequences, I lean forward and kiss Elijah Abernathy, the most beautiful boy in the world, in the middle of the ice, in front of the guys, and in the company of hundreds of happy skaters. Now, this, indeed, is the best Christmas gift ever. The end. Um, so, uh, that feels weird. It always feels weird when you read the end. But we did it. We got to the end of Chasing Christmas. All how many pages? 354 pages of Chasing Christmas. Wow. It's been so long since I read that book, and I actually really enjoyed reading that book again. I couldn't remember actually how good it actually is. When you're reading over something that you wrote, you're like, oh, it's like, oh, I wrote that. I forgot I wrote that. Christmas gift like no other. Yeah, definitely a Christmas gift like no other. But yeah, that's it. I didn't think we'd actually, be able to do it, but I thought I'd push forward and finish it. I guess this makes it our last live reading for the moment with Chasing Christmas. It's also a bit sad. I've been really enjoying this, guys, and I guess I'm gonna have to find something new to do now in the evenings. I hope you guys all enjoyed this. It's been certainly new, and I'd like to do more stuff like this now in the future. If you would like me to cover some of my other books, like like a case of jitters, or some of my other short stories with We Are Here, or maybe even You and I. Maybe I'll get around to reading that just before I release a second book, maybe. But yeah, yeah. I was as I was reading there, I was like, oh, this ending is very sweet, and yeah, I'm glad people have liked it, and that you have continuously come back to read it with me. It means so much. But yeah, I won't ramble on anymore. But thank you so much for for coming out and reading the book with me. It's meant a great deal to me, and I hope you really enjoyed it. It was nice to getting to see everybody, and also, you know, learning about a little bit more about my readers. um, but yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do now for the the rest of the Christmas season. But yeah, I hope you guys have a lovely Christmas coming up, and please do tell me what you all get for you as our Christmas presents. I'm always looking forward to that. You know, um, I got a new printer this year already. It's a um, it's an advance gift, but I guess it's there to help me with my writing. Thanks, Ethan. Actually, that was not when I first wrote the book. That was not the original ending. I remember I had to go back. I went back and I added the whole new epilogue to it, which added an additional 20,000 words to it. And I'm so much happier the way the ending actually turned out, because the original ending stopped when the boys were under the bridge and they kissed for the first time, and that was the original ending. But I have to agree myself that this ending is the much better one, and it kind of wraps everything up like a nice little cheesy romantic bow, which I think is just nice. But yeah, um, but yeah, it's been an honor, guys. I've really enjoyed this. Let me know if you would like to have me read some of my other books after the new year or something like that. I probably won't do it every single night, of course. I'll probably space them out a little bit more conveniently so that it's not such a big commitment to turn up every night. But I thought that with Chasing Christmas, we'd have to do this fairly, quickly. But yeah, it's been great. And thanks, guys, for staying with me all at this time, especially Terrence and Ethan. And I know yous have been with me from the very start, and of course my boyfriend Damon, who has tuned into every single one to support me. Thank you, honey. I love you so much. But yeah, I think that's about it. Guys, I hope you have a really lovely Christmas. I'll probably end up reaching out to you anyway through social media. You'll probably end up talking to me anyway through Gay Authors or Patreon or whatever it is. But yeah, you should definitely check out my Patreon. I have other stories there as well. And also, if you're not signed up to my mailing list, make sure you do, get up, get on there, because I'll be giving out, more freebies and more short stories, starting with the short story that would be coming around the Christmas time. But yeah, you never know. I might be giving away some more of these, of course. And then when I get around to fixing up Chasing Christmas, I'll be giving out a whole new second edition to this. Nothing of the story is going to be changing. I'm just going to do like a general revision, and of course, I'll be adding more books. But yeah, it's been so good, guys. I hope you have a lovely day or evening wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much for tuning in, of course, and yeah, I hope you have a lovely day or night or evening, and I hope that Ethan gets to experience some snow at some point. It's definitely a magical thing. It's not Christmas without some snow. But yeah, thanks, guys, and I'll see you later. Thanks. Bye bye.